Okay, hey, we'll be the last of the Nikon D500 testing. I've been testing the vertical grip now for a few days since getting it. I was one of the first people to get the Nikon D500 and certainly the first to review it, but none of that's important, obviously so. Importantly, however, in perspective to some video reviewers who've actually got the camera for a day or two, they go out and make a video, it's like, okay, we've tested it. You know, I actually have been picking this camera apart, and you know, I'm a person who has made many videos, you know, attacking Nikon for the stupid things that they have done, and that is evidently clear, such as the Nikon D5, their advertising department, a couple of design failures like the Nikon DF. But you know, Nikon is a huge, gigantic company, and there is no gigantic company that I know of, IBM or anybody else, that's so diversified, such as Nikon is, that they can't roll out some failures here and there. So that has to be kept in perspective. But getting on to the Nikon D500, I mean, I have done a lot of picking apart, and I want to mention some things that other people have not mentioned in their video reviews, and some things that, only a few of which, that I've touched upon that are important, that other people have asked, and I've literally been, you know, beating the camera up left and right now since it was first released, and you know, trying to pick it apart for you to see if there's any flaws or anything that I should point out. And ironically enough, there aren't any, but let me get to some important perspectives on this camera. The actual battery consumption appears to be about 10 or 15% higher than, say, a Nikon D750 or Nikon D810, so you can expect, obviously not like a mirrorless camera, where you have to pack around a pocket full of batteries. It is about 10 to 15% that I've found, and that's using a new Nikon battery, actually two different new Nikon batteries. So I've eliminated the variable of a possible high usage battery draining quicker, as far as the lithium ion EN-EL15 battery, in which, by the way, the Nikon D500 and its vertical grip uses the same battery the Nikon D810, D750, D7100 uses, so you won't have to purchase an additional battery. One thing that I've noticed about many of the other reviewers that have reviewed the Nikon D500, they've all kind of come to the same conclusion. It's like, and it's the same thing that I came to, and I've owned every Nikon DSLR made, and the brief synopsis of that is that it's a $2,000 DX crop sensor camera. You know, what exactly are you going to get? I mean, I could buy a new Nikon D750 for that. And then the ultimate conclusion that they make, in one or more words, basically saying the same thing: wow, oh my God, I can't believe it. Nikon really hit it out of the ballpark. And I'm a person that hates everything. And, you know, there's a lot of people that say, oh, this is great, that's great. Well, what have you actually said? You love everything. You're not critical of anything. How can I trust anything you say? Or they're a person that borrows the camera and makes a couple video reviews and then gives the camera back, or they're connected to a camera store. So ultimately, once again, how could you trust the review? Well, I actually paid for this camera. This camera is mine, as well as the vertical grip. And I've been testing the hell out of it, you know, ever since it hit the market. And I can say succinctly that the Nikon D500 is the tits. It's epic. It's the cat's ass times 10. It literally is. I've been very critical of Nikon when they screw up, but you know, so what? They're a huge company. Nikon has a bazillion lenses they've been making now for decades. There are more than a few that are dogs, but Nikon has some really awesome, very cheap lenses, which is a major choice for purchasing Nikon. But let's get to the point as far as relative perspective in the spectrum of Nikon cameras. Where does it actually sit? I can say that the D500, while it's not a full-frame camera, obviously so, blasts the hell out of every other Nikon in every category except for one. That would be the Nikon D810 for landscapes and portraiture. You know, namely compression perspective, because a 56mm, well, it's an 85mm equivalent roughly in crop. A 56mm is the 56mm in field of view and in depth of field. Okay, field of view is not depth of field. A 56mm is a 56mm is a 56mm. An 85 has its own depth of field at f1.8, and a 56 has its own depth of field at f1.8, and that is different and is not as creamy or beautiful as the 85mm at f1.8. That's the reason, for example, the Fuji 56mm is an f1.2. You can crank down the aperture way down there to get the same depth of field that you would get out of an 85mm at f1.8. So this is obviously, you know, an undeniable aspect of full frame advantage. the post-sensor signal processing, and I knew this would be the case for the Nikon D500 rolled out, would be so terrific at 4.2 micrometers. They scaled it up from 3.9 micrometers on the D7100 and D7200 to 4.2 so they could get better signal processing and better gain over a period of time. So we have improved sensor technology, improved AD converter, improved SNR firmware. The out of camera, by the way, on the Nikon D500 is exquisite. It is extremely reminiscent. Obviously you can tweak all this stuff in Lightroom and Photoshop, right? There is something to be said for very beautiful out-of-camera shots, especially if you're going to be using SnapBridge. You're immediately going to be sending forward JPEG files or something else that's untouched. Out-of-camera still has an importance, and the out-of-camera from the Nikon D500 is epic. It's stellar. It's untouchable. It is extremely reminiscent of the Nikon D4, which I happen to have, and the Nikon D700, of which I've got a couple of. So that is beautiful. I've been reviewing, like I said, the Nikon D500 longer than anybody else out there, and I have been trying to pick it apart, and I want to bring to you some important points. As I said, we got 15% higher consumption on battery. The Nikon D500, no question, flat out, there's no argument, shut the hell up, will capture wildlife, sports, action. As far as if I have 3 copies of myself, and 1 copy of myself has a D500, and another copy of myself has a D750, and another copy has the D810, for example, flat out, no argument, the Nikon D500, 20-25% more captures on the stuff that I need. The buffer is basically bottomless. With the XQD cards have come down drastically in price. A 32 gigabyte ultra high speed Lexar XQD card, $59. It's not that much. I mean, SD cards used to cost a whole hell of a lot more than that, so XQD cards are not that expensive. Do you have to buy an XQD reader? Well, you sure do, but you're talking about 40 bucks here, no big deal. Another important point that nobody else has mentioned, and I haven't even mentioned, well, I have touched upon it, is the fact that the pissy small viewfinder that is found on the D750 that I'm filming this on, even though it's a full-frame camera, which is identical to the D7100 viewfinder, the pissy small viewfinder of the old DX crop sensor, well, not old, that still exists, the D7100, D7200, even the D750 viewfinder, that is gone on the Nikon D500. So, as far as eye relief that you have, and I wear glasses too, but it's incredible. No one else has mentioned this. That's really an important, if you're going to be looking through the viewfinder a lot, the D500 is the tits. And the fact that they've actually got a professional, by the way, this will take the same 1.2 magnification DK17M elements that the Nikon D810 takes and the Nikon D3. That is epic. That is really incredible. That's a huge relief for eye strain. And I wear glasses. Even someone that doesn't wear glasses, it's a huge relief, even more so. So the pissy viewfinder is history. You have a screw-in circular professional viewfinder that doesn't pop off like it does on the D7100, D7200, and Nikon D750. The autofocus fine-tune feature is very easy and a huge addition to the Nikon. This is the first of its type. The touch screen is incredible. As far as what I use for taking pictures, which you can actually tap to autofocus and then release to take the shot. It's neat. Do I really use it? No. Where is it really useful? It makes things, speeds up your workflow when you're taking shots or chimping on your pictures. Chimping on your pictures. Boom. You know, pinch the zoom or double tap to view it 100%. Double tap to bring it back down to normal thumbnail view. Double tap again on the next shot. Slide. Awesome. Tits. Awesome. You know, if that's the only thing the touch feature does on D500, which is essentially the case, huge addition. Let's go down to some of the other points. The dynamic range is superior to that of the Nikon D5. Another person that recently reviewed a couple days ago the Nikon D5 reported that as well. I have tested the Nikon D5. The dynamic range is superior. The autofocus speed is superior. It uses the exact same autofocus sensor bay in the D500 as the Nikon D5 does, but since it's a smaller sensor, covering that for autofocus acquisition and for low light is superior on the Nikon D500 than it is on the Nikon D5 for $4,500 less on the camera, of course. No anti-aliasing filter. The shots at 100% magnification, roughly the D5 and the Nikon D500 are exactly the same. 20.8 versus 20.9 megapixels. Superior. Looks about 15% sharper. There's no AA filter on the Nikon D500. This also bodes for what the Nikon D850 or the D810 or whatever the hell they're going to name it. It's going to be a full frame sensor exactly like this. Everything the Nikon D500 is going to be is what the Nikon D850 or D900, whatever they're going to call it's going to be. So that bodes incredibly well. The price, who knows what the price is going to be. But this is about the Nikon D500. Yeah, the bottomless buffer. The other major reviews that are in, as I've stated, are basically the same as what I've said. I saw something crawling on my foot there. I was like, what the hell was it? They say the same thing I am, and it's what a lot of people are thinking. And I'm really shocked that the Nikon D5 got so much press, and the Nikon D500, not that much press. I use the Nikon D5. No. The D5 got all the press. The camera that should have got all the press was the Nikon D500. This camera, and the major people that have reviewed it are like, holy crap, damn, shit, damn, really. I mean that seriously. Damn, shut the hell up, damn. If you buy a Nikon D500 and you don't like it, send me your dirty underwear and I'll eat them, because it's never going to happen. I know exactly what you're thinking. $2,000 for a DX crop sensor camera. Shut the hell up. It is worth more than $2,000. I don't say that lightly. I'm not connected to a camera store. Nikon isn't giving me a damn thing. I pay for this camera with my own cash. Okay? Epic tits. Incredible. Flat out, balls out, awesome. Anybody that wants to compare this, a lot of people say, you know, the low light is not that much better than the D7200. Why should I buy this $2,000 beast over the Nikon D7200? Well, baby, the Nikon D7200 does not compare to the Nikon D500in any way, shape, or form. Autofocus acquisition, low light acquisition, has no autofocus assist lamp. The buffer is basically bottomless. The out of camera blows the piss out of the Nikon D7200. Okay? The Nikon D7200, despite being relatively close to the Nikon D500 in high ISO low light performance on a damn tripod, does not compare to what the D500 can do. Sports, action, wildlife, low light acquisition, D500 will blow the hell out of the D7200. And that's the question people ask. Well, I got a D7200. Why? You know, that's a 20 megapixel camera. Why the hell would I spend $2,000? Listen. If you don't want to buy it, go test drive it, go rent it, go borrow it for a day, and then you'll know exactly what the hell I'm talking about, because it is worth every bit and then some of the $2,000 that it costs. Unfortunately, it is delayed, not for being released, it's already out, obviously, due to supply and distribution issues due to the earthquake in Japan, but, you know, I obviously have no control over that, nor does Nikon. There's no issues that I could actually think of on the Nikon D500 right now. Hey, neighbor. He's got the cutest dog on the face of the earth. XQD cards are cheap. Out of camera is incredible on the Nikon D500. I said the 15% higher battery usage on the Nikon D500. And the pissy viewfinder is gone on the Nikon D500. You know, the eye relief on the D7100, D7200, even the D750, not that good. It's excellent on the Nikon D500. Perfectly reminiscent of the D4 and the Nikon D3, D5, Nikon D810. That's it. That's kind of the wrap up. Like I said, I've been beating this camera around the ears, lifting the skirt, looking for herpes, looking for you know, STDs on this camera, if you will. It's not there. It's not there. So Nikon really knocked it out of the parts. The Nikon D500, final conclusion, out of 10 stars, I would give it a 10. I give it a 10 out of 10. A recent reviewer from 48 hours ago, I think he's the second largest on YouTube, I think he said the D500 rocks. And for him, you know, he's not very expressive, which some people aren't very expressive. For him, that's like a huge, gigantic thumbs up. And he's correct on that. It is an epic camera, and it is worth every bit of $2,000. So that's it. I will keep on reviewing the Nikon D500, but the Nikon D500 is epic tits. It's incredible. It's absolutely flat out the cat's ass, and it's worth every penny of $2,000. Okay, bye.